It is getting
What's
warm.
up, guys? This is Curtis Riggleman here. We're going to start episode 3 of Number One Car Thief, the Number One Salesman. If you haven't seen episode 1, go back and see episode 1. That's going to take you back to my childhood and how I became a car thief and worked my way out of poverty. And we just finished up episode 2. That's where I got introduced to the car business. I take you through how I became a millionaire in the first 5 years, turned around and lost everything in one. And now starting episode 3 is kind of where I take off from there. After building my coffee truck and getting that established, so forth, I find myself working my way back into the car business. And that's the beautiful thing with the car business, or any sales that you become good at. When you're a commission paid salesperson, in any economy, people still buy stuff if you're good enough to do it. So I went back to the car lot in 2009, early 2009. We're still in a recession. And because of the level of stress that I had went through, losing my car lot, losing all my homes, everything else, I didn't feel stress anymore. I didn't feel pressure, but my tolerance was so high. And everybody still at this time in the car business were suffering. They were struggling. My managers are making $5,000. These are guys that used to make $20,000 on the regular. And times are tough. And I was even deterred by my peers, like, hey, you don't want to get in here. That's the wrong time. I'm like, we're in two different spaces, man. I owe $2 million now from losing the car lot, between IRS, between the flooring companies, between everything that I got, all the debt that I accumulated and lost. I'm in quite a bit of debt. So when I went back there, selling cars was easier than anything I'd ever done. I was always good, but then I went to the next level. I'm doing 28, 30 cars in a recession, making close to $20,000 when most people can't get off minimum wage. So it was a crazy time. I went back into management a couple times. My general manager is like, Curtis, you got to help teach the rest of these guys. We need you back in management. We take a sales manager position. I did it to help everyone, but the money was so low. I had to go back to the floor, go sell cars. I mean, in that type of environment, when times are tough, I had to rely on myself. And in management, you have to rely on too many other people. So I went back, did it myself. I ended up spending another 3-4 years back with Lithia again. And then in 2014, almost 5 years, 2014, I was a sales manager for about a year and a half at that point, and I was just getting bored. I was really getting bored. And I told my general manager, I go, hey, next month, I want to go back to the floor. I want to sell cars again just to make sure I could still outperform everybody, because I'm teaching, I'm coaching all the time, and I hadn't sold a car in a few years. I wanted to make sure I could still do it. At that time, we had 40 salespeople on the floor. And I went back to the floor on my very first month, and I outsold everyone. I was top sales guy again. And I even had my own doubts. I had no pipeline of people. I had no nothing. I went out there. There's 40 guys now. There's literally a pile of people. Every 30 feet, there's another 5-6 salespeople. We have way too much staff. But I wanted the challenge because I was bored. I went out there, took the top spot. The next month, I went back to my general manager, and I quit. I just said, hey, I've lost interest because I'm bored. I'm bored with this position now. It doesn't do nothing for me anymore. So I went to a place called Keller, and they didn't have a good management staff there. It was a felony store. I applied for a general sales manager position, and I got the position. Before I took the position, I analyzed the floor. I analyzed the staff. I analyzed the structure, the discipline, the training, which they had none. And I could see right away this store is failing just because it's mismanaged. It was just mismanaged. So I went in there, I built structure, built training, discipline, all the things it takes to run a store. And we turned that thing around in no time. I mean, we went from the month I started there, they did 306. We went to 600 grand in about 8-month period. And I was there for 2 years as a general sales manager. They brought in a new general manager. They fired my general manager. They brought in a new general manager. And a week later, he brought in his own people. And then they terminated me. That's the first time I've ever been fired. The only time I've ever been fired. It turned out to be a blessing in disguise. On my way home, which my first thought was I hadn't had a good vacation in a while. So I'm like, I'm going to take a week off. I'm just going to relax. I'm going to go to the coast. I'm going to do something. I don't really want to think about a job or anything. I'm going to give it a week and just see what's out there, right? And Keller is located in Hanford, which is about 30 miles south of Fresno. On my way home, I get 3 phone calls from different people offering me general sales manager and general manager job. I don't know how these people even heard that I had just been fired. I haven't called anybody. I wasn't going to talk to anybody. I was just going to take some time off. Okay. Got 3 calls and I told them all, I'm like, hey, I'll see you in a week. I'm going to take a week off and I'll come talk to you. Take a week off, I'll come talk to you. Well, one of the calls is actually in Selma, the Farney group, and it was on my way home. In fact, I was almost at the exit. So I said, fuck it. I'll pull in right now. We'll talk, right? I'm right here anyway. Pull in, talk. Again, blessing in disguise. I interview with Mike, who's the owner's son, and we're almost the same age. I think he's a year older than I am. And in this interview, you know, at the time he's interviewing me. I don't know if you realize or not, but I'm interviewing him. I got 2 other people that want to talk to me as well. I had just got fired by a new general manager that brought in his own guys. He had his clique. The old general manager I was dealing with constantly put his thumb on me, made it difficult for me to do my job because he felt insecure by me. So when I'm interviewing Mike and he's interviewing me, I'm making sure, like, hey, I'm not going to run into these type of situation again. I'm not going to get pinched again, and so forth. And I was able to realize that this guy is exactly what I need. He's the owner's son. He's getting ready to take over the company. He wants to go big. He wants, he's thinking the same wavelength I'm thinking. He doesn't realize I'm looking for somebody like that. And I don't think he realized that he needed somebody like me. It just happened to fucking work. And the chemistry was there and we kicked it off right away. I went in a lower position, in a sales manager position. And 3 months, I took over general sales manager. I took over 2 of the stores at a time, which were Ford and GMC. Okay. At that time, they were building a brand new Toyota store, monster store. It's the mecca of our company. And about a year into it, they had finished that store. So they transferred Toyota to this brand new store. And I was left on the other side of the street with Ford and GMC. Now, when they first opened Toyota, in the honeymoon stage, it took off really quick. It went to 500,000 really quick, which at that time was a lot of money. And after about 4 or 5 months, after the honeymoon wore off and the management that was in there took their foot off the throttle, that thing had shut back down to around 400 grand. And I'm beating that store in the Ford and GMC store, which is nothing compared to this store. And you don't invest all that money into this brand new building to get beat by the old guys. It wasn't making sense. I mean, this thing should be doing $1 million, and it's doing less than the Ford and GMC store and I'm running. And the difference was just the program. It was the structure. It was the training. It was everything that I was implementing over here. And then these guys, they weren't implementing it. So long story short, within 2 years, I ended up taking over the whole thing. And then 2 years later, I'm running all of it. I'm just underneath Mike. Now, Mike's dad has stepped down and left the company to Mike and his brother Scott. Scott's our controller. So Mike's pretty much running the store now. And I'm just under him as far as controlling the sales department, running the whole thing there. And then about a year after that, maybe a year and a half or so, Mike and Scott start talking about opening up their own, basically a franchise called My Car Park. That's a used car store. And then Mike came to me and he said, hey, I want to open this used car store, so forth and so forth, but I want you to be a partner. I want you to buy in. I want you to be a partner to it. So I'm like, cool. Speed us up. Now we have 9 stores total. And thankfully, I'm a partner in 5 of them. And we're building another one now in Visalia, another new My Car Park. Really cool. And here we are. So that's the fast portion of my car career. A couple things I wanted to talk about that in between there, because I talked about previously, I talked about using your earned income to create passive income, to create portfolio income. And even after losing the car lot and all those things, the first thing I started attacking was my credit. I had to get my credit back right again. I couldn't do nothing without my credit, right? And I ended up buying my first house back in 2014 from renting that whole time, getting my first house back. The next company I opened up, and for anybody that's making 6 figures or more, your next fastest raise is getting your taxes back, saving your taxes. Everybody wants to figure out the side hustle, but if you're making 100 grand, you're coughing up probably 35 to the state and the Fed, maybe even a little bit more, depending on how you do your taxes. It's hard to go find a side hustle in the car business that pays you back $3,000 a month. It's much easier for me to find some tax loopholes to get my 3 grand back. That's my next fastest raise. And this is one of the things I talk about with my staff, figuring out how to get that money back. So I bought my first house back, ended up buying a rental. Once I had one rental, I opened up a business called Ninth Time Realty. And it was called Ninth Time because this was my 9th business that I've opened up. So I said, okay, I counted them out. Hey, it's 9th one, let's do it. Ninth Time Realty, right? In that realty company, and I incorporated it, then I'm able to pay myself as a manager for managing these properties. And now I'm writing off everything that has anything to do, that could be tied to a house in any way at all. I'm writing off my utility bills, my gardener, my everything you could think of other than fuel and food. I'm writing off to this company, right? And then COVID hits, 2019, December 2019, November, the December area, right? So when COVID hits, my wife, at this time wasn't my wife, but we were very serious, engaged, and she was a nurse for 16 years, right? And right when COVID hit, they laid off 72 nurses at her hospital. And then 3 weeks later, they're calling everybody back. They're like, we need everybody back to work. And I'm like, you're not going back. I didn't like her there in the first place. She worked in the heart unit, and 16 years, she was very attached to her doctors and to the other employees, but she would get attached to these patients, and they would die 3 weeks later, a month later. And then she was always coming home with her work. She would always, she was always sad. Oh, Mrs. Jones passed today. She would even call it expired. She was numb to it, and so forth. So when they called her back, I'm like, no, we're not going back. We're not going to do it. We're going to do something else. So with her experience as a nurse, I knew that would translate to childcare very easy. So we went and got a license for a childcare facility, because plus the state pays you for that. So it's guaranteed income from the state, right? So I'm like, we're going to open a childcare facility, and that's what we're going to do. And we could even employ her daughter. Her daughter, I think, was about 17, 18 at the time, right? So we went and bought a house specifically for the childcare. I had to put about another 20 grand into the house to get it to pass all the codes. We went and got all of her licensing. She got everything she needed to do this. We're getting ready to start advertising, open this thing up. And they shut down schools and childcare. COVID. Shut down schools, childcare. I'm like, son of a bitch. So now I'm stuck with this house that I got fully renovated for childcare, and I'm stuck with it, and I'm even scared to rent it, because right now they're letting renters not pay rent in California. So I was already nervous. The renters I had weren't using that. They were paying me, but I'm like, it's risky to put a renter in right now. I could put them in there 1 month and then they stop paying me, and there's nothing I could do about it. So I'm like, what the fuck am I going to do with this house now, right? So I told my wife, I'm like, hey, until I figure out what to do with it, let's at least have a yard sale out front to help cover the payment. And I found on the internet a pallet, which is it's a pallet of returned goods from like Walmart or Home Depot, whatever. We drive all the way to San Diego, and we spent $500, and we bought a pallet of goods. It was returned goods, stuff that had been open or on the shelf too long or whatever. We bring it back to this house, and she has a yard sale on a Saturday, Sunday. She made $700, and she had about half the stuff left. So I'm like, shit, that worked out good. Okay, let's go get another one. We go get another one. Now, my entrepreneur mind is spinning. When I'm there, I'm asking a shit ton of questions. I'm trying to find out where these things are coming from, what they pay for them. I'm trying to get as much information as I can from the employee, hoping they just give me as much information as I can get out of them. We ended up buying another pallet, rinse and repeat, same thing. She made like another $700-800 on a yard sale, and now we got basically a whole pallet left because we had half and half. We got a whole pallet left, and we made another $700-800, right? So now my wheels are spinning. My primary house, I have a shop on the property, and I got 2 acres there at the time. And I did some digging, and I found out where they get their product from. And I went and bought a whole truckload. So I bought a whole truckload of return goods from, I think that one was either Target or a Lowe's, something like that. I buy a whole truck from Lowe's. We bring it to my house at the shop. I unload it all in the shop. We start advertising it on Facebook, so forth. It starts taking off. I went and opened another business. It's called Back on the Market. Sold once, now it's Back on the Market, right? Back on the Market Inc., another LLC. And now I'm able to get a shit ton of write-offs on this thing. We built this thing up in 4 years. My best months, I hit over 50 grand out of my backyard. 1 month really close to 60, about 58 grand was about our best month one time, but it consistently does over 30, but it hit 50 a few times. So that's out of the backyard now. So my wife was helping me run that, really just managing it. At one point I had both my brothers working for me there. I've had some of my friends working for me there. It's been good, and we still have it still today, but just that business was really just done by accident. We ended up renting the old house to her kids and her dad. They stayed there for a couple of years until the kids decided they wanted to move out on their own. Then I ended up selling the house, right? So then next business, again, figuring out how to turn that money over, keep your money. Between Nighttime Realty and Back on the Market, that year in 2021, which was a massive year, everybody in the car business, 2021 was the biggest year. It was a massive year. I did really, really well. And I should have paid between the state and Fed over 40%, close to 45%. It should have been my taxes. With both of those businesses, I ended up paying a total of 17%, which people that make 20 grand a year pay more than 17%. So again, that was keeping a huge chunk of my money just in the tax benefits, let alone the profit that I was making off these. Okay. Then the next one, and like I said, I had a really good year. So I went and bought a Lamborghini, big ass payment, right? So I'm like, okay, how do I write this motherfucker off, right? I have a pontoon boat that I was hardly using. So I went and started a company called 559 Toy Rentals. 559 Toy Rentals, I rented my pontoon boat probably 5 times a year. Maybe it made me 10 grand if I'm lucky, if that. I bought some Sea-Doos. I rented those out. Those end up being more of a headache. The pontoon boats are much less maintenance. But what it allowed me to do is I tossed my Lambo in there. I tossed my truck in there. I tossed my wife's car in there. I ended up getting another $100,000 a year in write-offs on this 559 Toy Rentals by tossing every automobile or toy, my Harley, anything that I had a payment on, I tossed it into this right here. Now I took my tax bracket down to like 15%. I keep telling my tax guy, I'm going to get it to where there's nothing. I want to get it to where there's nothing at all. He says I'm crazy, but I'm going to figure it out. So, and we've done a couple things since then. Obviously, I bought the new house here last January. First thing I did here, we bought this house. I got 2 acres not being used back there. We've started converting it to a venue. I've got some pictures online on my Instagram, on YouTube, showing the venue. And again, I'm just trying to inspire people that came from where I've came from, or maybe they're in a better position, but they don't know how to get to the next level, whatever the case is. So I started another business called Venue 65. This house was built in 1965. I thought it was a good name for it. We call it Venue 65. Now I get to write off about 60% of my house expenses because it's Venue 65. Okay. Next thing, I started Official Curtis Riggleman. Went down and actually got a sales license out of this. This room that we converted it into a studio. I can write off, I could actually rent 14 days of my house payment to Official Curtis Riggleman. I could rent 14 days a month to that business and write it off. and I could write off about 50% of my house because I've converted a bunch of my house to this business. I haven't done my taxes yet for this year, but I have a feeling my goal is I'm going to be under 10%. I think I'll be under 10%. So, and again, kind of drifting off subject, but these are things that I teach my sales guys as well. You know, it's not about just selling cars, just making money, but it's okay. Hey, how do I keep my money? You know, the rich guys that really got it figured out, they know how to keep their money. You know, they don't pay taxes. They figure out their loopholes, and I'm still trying to figure out all mine as well. But these are just some that I do know. So I'm trying to figure out how to loopholes to keep all these. But I also teach my guys, you want to do this early, right away, when you first start making money. Earned income, turn passive income, portfolio income. Keep building it up, because if you don't do it right away, then you get used to making this amount of money, and you get used to spending this amount of money. And then even though you're making $6,000 to $12,000 a month, you're always broke because you just took your lifestyle and you lifted it right up to your debt. So now you have to make 12 grand just to fucking live. You're not getting nowhere. And this is very common in the car business. You see a lot of guys in the car business that make $120,000 a year, $150,000 a year, and they're check to check. Just bad decisions, didn't start their portfolio, their passive income, didn't start their career thinking right away. They raised their debt to some of their best months, and now they have to continue earning that money just to pay their bills. And then it's not fun selling cars. Then it's stressful. And when you're stressed out, when you're thinking about money, it don't help you sell cars. It actually becomes worse. People feel that stress. They feel that energy that they don't like to be around, that desperateness. And it actually turns people off. It's like when you build your passive and your portfolio income and you have other sources of income coming in just besides this, especially if you can get your passive income to cover your nut and you're selling cars for fun, you sell a lot more cars and you make a lot more money because you're not stressing on the money. It's funny how it works. It's like when you're out looking for a girlfriend, they're harder to find. When you get a girlfriend, you don't need one. They're all over the place. You're like, where were you at 6 months ago? It's the same concept.
So a lot of it has to do with the mindset that you bring to it.
It does. It does. It's so strange. It's like when you need something, you put off that vibe of neediness, and it doesn't come as easy.
Yeah, I think that's called lack. When you come from a place of lack, people don't trust you.
Yeah.
But when you come from a place of abundance, people are like, man, I trust this person.
Yeah. So, since the recovery of losing everything in 2009 and recovering in 2010, I've worked my way back up. I'm in a good position now, but I've opened a lot of these side businesses to help control my taxes. Because once you become a high earner, they take a lot. You know what I mean? So just getting those taxes under control, saving that money. And, we started this as a 4-part series. The 4th part is still yet to come. The 4th part is going to be a few years down the road because I'm still on my journey, just like everyone else. You think $1 million is a lot of money until you get it. And then you realize it's not nearly what you thought. There's still so much more to go. And all it does is it makes you more addicted to want more. At some point, you actually become addicted to the success. And that's all you think about now is how do I get to the next step? How do I get more? How do I want more? And, people have told me before, like, Curtis, you're never satisfied with what you got. And it's like, or you're never happy. I've heard that so many times. You're never happy with what you have. How come you're not just happy with what you have? Why do you got to get this? Why do you got to do that? And it's not that I'm not happy, because I'm always happy. I tell everybody I have good days and great days. That's it. All right. But it's not satisfied. I'm happy, but I'm never satisfied. And it's an awkward balance that you have to learn to live with, because it could actually drive you crazy too. Because you start thinking like, fuck, I should be so much further by now. I should have this. I should be here. And you can't let that dig into your head, because it'll damage you.
Well, and you're with all the businesses you started, and you're not done thinking about future ones.
No,
you're always scheming.
No,
always planning.
I'm going to LA this Saturday. Talk to a potential business partner about another venture that we're gonna see where it goes. If it works out, it's gonna be very lucrative. So I'm excited about that.
Do you think there's a difference in covering some of the stuff that you talked about with your journey and getting where you're at today? And always exciting to see like where this takes you. Do you think there's a difference between you and people who don't do it in regards to just like how you're made, or just, who you are? Or is it just something that some people make different decisions and they get different outcomes, or do you think it's like something unique to a certain behavior, like your character or something?
You know, I don't know, man. I don't know. You know, my childhood, you know, growing up homeless, growing up in motels, growing up in those things, you want to get away from that lifestyle so bad that you're willing to risk everything because you've already experienced the worst. So, you know, you don't have the fear of people that grew up in a nice home, went to school, things like that, and they're taught like, hey, you don't want to be too risky because you could lose it. I didn't have none of those things. So I've always been full risk. Okay. And then once I became a millionaire my first time and I lost everything and I started over, and then I got it back this second time, and I know every shortcut that I could have done that time and I got it back then, if that were to happen a third time, I would get everything back plus some in a quarter of the time now. So that really takes a lot of the fear of taking risks. It takes the fear out of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Granted, I don't want to lose any of my shit, but I'm not going to let that fear stop me from taking a risk and taking chances on new ideas, new stuff. I calculate my risk. I'm never going to go all in. I'm not going to put all my eggs in one basket and either risk losing everything. But I will take calculated risk for sure.
It just makes me think like somebody watching this is probably not, maybe they're selling cars or they have a business or they want to do one of these things or they want to get into some of this stuff. You've said something tonight that probably inspired them to, you know, want to take some sort of action, or they have something in mind. What is the difference between those who do and don't? Like you train a lot of people in the sales teams.
Yeah.
So what gets somebody to get over that hump, or is it unfortunately just some people aren't able to do it?
There's a couple things I can't teach. I can't teach somebody work ethic. Your parents had to teach you that, or something in life had to teach you that. And I can't teach people to want to be successful. You have to come to me with that. I can't teach somebody to burning desire to win. And unfortunately, in the youth today, those are a lot rarer. You know, when our age group, everybody wanted money. I mean,
everybody wanted to win.
Yes,
it seemed like, at least.
When I first went to sales on the line, you know, 25 years ago, 24 years ago, whatever it was a lot more competitive than today. I mean, you hear stories, people will fight on the lot. You know, this guy thinks that you took his customer. He's waiting for you after work. You guys are going to fight over that shit now. You know, today they'll give the customer away so they can go home on time. Hey,
yeah,
you want this? You can take this deal. I want to go home. It wasn't like that back then. I mean, we worked 12, 14-hour shifts regularly. That was, you know, sun up, sun down all the time, you know? So it's a different time. But if you are a real winner today, which I have a few, man, I have a few in my group, young 20s, hungry, you know, taught something good by their parents, taught to work, and they come in with that hungry attitude and they eat up what I'm teaching them. That inspires you as a teacher, as a coach. I get inspired by that because I'm going, they don't know it yet, but I see in them, I'm like, you're a fucking winner, dude. You are going to be something great. You don't know it yet, but you're on the road to be something huge. I can't tell you how far you're going to go, but you're going to go further than me. And so those definitely inspire you. When I tell these stories, when I'm talking about myself, bragging about myself, I'm not telling these stories to get any special attention. I'm telling these stories because I want people that have just started, whether selling cars, selling houses, whatever it is, you just start a profession, a commission-based profession. I'm trying to save these people years of time and trouble that it cost me to learn these things. I'm just trying to inspire the next generation, the next guys, you know? And so that's what it's about. That's the whole reason Official Curtis Rickman started, was just pay it forward.
So this might sound redundant for me and you to bring up, but again, for people watching, this might be really useful. How could somebody know whether or not they have that potential, that work ethic, that those things that you can't teach someone? How can they tell? Like maybe they're thinking in their head, I think I got that inside. I just don't know how or where it needs to be. Like, or do you think that that's just BS and they're just lying to you?
I don't know. I can only tell you how I felt and still feel. You know, you look at me today and a lot of people would think like, man, he's made it. And all I think about is what's next. What's the next thing? And my boss is worth a ton of fucking money. And he's the same way. He can't stop thinking about what's next. What can I do next? How big you live thinking not how much money I can make, but you live thinking how much can I accomplish in one fucking lifetime. You give me 80 years. How much can I do in 80 years? What can I bring to the table in 80 years? Can I leave an impact that people remember? How many people can I affect? How many lives can I change? What kind of wealth can I create and set up the people that I care about beyond me? And when your mind's there and you're like, how much can I accomplish? It goes right past the money. The money, once you start making good money, you don't need no more money, or you don't need money as bad, I should say. You start thinking past that, and you start thinking success. I'm addicted to success. Okay, how much further can I go? What else can I do? Where's my breaking point? How far can I go before I stress myself out? Your mind, that's where your mind's at. You're constantly thinking like that. So it's hard to explain, but it's not hard for me to identify people that want it. People that want it are willing to do what others are not willing to do. That's one big thing right there. I talked about in episode 2, for 2 years, I worked 7 days a week. 6 of them were 12 hours. 1 was 16 hours. That was my work week for 7 days for 2 years straight when I was building a poker store, and they can go over it in episode 2. But how many people would be willing to do that? I didn't see my kid a long time. I mean, my mother has pictures of my son every year all the way until he was 18. And I walked in her house one time and I'm looking at all the pictures, and there was about a 5-year gap that I did not even recognize the kid, because I would leave before he got up. And when I came home, he was already asleep. So I spent very little time with him for a long time. You know what I mean? I was chasing a dream. In my mind, I'm going, I'll make this all up when I get where I'm going. I'll make this up. I'm losing a lot of time right now, but I'll make this up later. I had a bigger dream, a bigger goal that affected a lot more people than just my son. And it sounds cruel, but my mind still works the same way. I can't change it. I can't take it back.
Yeah, we can't apologize for who we are because it's not going to change anything.
I can't change it. Yeah. I still think the same way today. I'm willing to sacrifice everything to achieve my lifelong goal and find out what I can accomplish.
So when you're talking to other people about this, or they're listening to you and some of the things that you share, especially with your trainings and your online stuff, or in person, or just a friend in conversation, what are some of the things that you hear or see or detect when you're talking to somebody, where you kind of your radar goes up and goes, oh, I see something here. Like this person's got something that interests me, whether it be, maybe they have that desire, or they have that drive or interest, or they just share some sort of similar, passion that you have. Are there some of those things that you naturally pick up on? Like you have that radar to kind of
Are you talking like this kind of conversation?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like, so
I don't talk to people like this.
No.
You can only talk to people like this that are like-minded and that think the same way.
So how do you detect that if you see it?
That's how they think too. That's how they
obvious.
live too. Yeah. I mean, you and I talk like this because we're both driven. We could both talk like this. There's no animosity. There's no jealousy. You never think I'm bragging in some way or something like that. I have a couple friends of mine that I can talk that way to. One of them is my boss. Even though he's my employer, him and I are really close, but we both have this same vision of just, there's no finish line. That's the thing. There's no finish line. It's what can we do in this one lifetime we're given. So we could have conversations like this. I got a buddy of mine, Alex, that has sold cars with you for years. I mean, he's an entrepreneur. He's a maniac. Him and I have conversations like this. My partner, Joey, and I have conversations like this. This is my partner that I bought the car lot with. And then you and I have conversations like this. That's it. I don't have these talks with you. Anybody that thinks and is driven the same way I'm driven right here, they know the same thing. You can't have this conversation with just anybody because they'll take it the wrong way.
Yeah.
They'll take it the wrong way.
They get defensive or offended.
They'll either get offensive, they'll get offended, and you're left feeling stupid. You can see like they're in their attitude and their body language that they don't like the conversation. It makes them feel uncomfortable, might make them feel inferior. And I'm not trying to do that. I might be just trying to inspire them because I'm addicted to doing that too. I love inspiring people. I love helping people. I get a kick out of it. I get a pleasure out of it. And so I'm always trying to inspire and help somebody, but sometimes they don't want to be inspired or helped. So I have to recognize that, and then I'll just back off.
Yeah.
All right. This is uncomfortable for you. I'll move on. You know what I mean? You're not there yet, or maybe you never will be. I don't know. But these type of deep conversations, I don't have these with people.
Yeah, that makes sense because there's this one of my go-to Bible verses that talk about this all the time is that it basically suggests not to cast pearls before swine. I actually think I talked to you about this on our first episode, on episode 1, which I also was there with you on. And it basically means, at first it doesn't sound so obvious to some people, but pearls are of value. So why would you throw them in front of something that literally will eat trash? Like the pigs eat trash and you're taking something of value, putting it in front of them. They don't care. That's a waste of effort and value. And so you start to, when you're successful in life, in my opinion, the success, story of life is really defined by, are you doing what you want to be doing? That's it. That's really that's my dad's actual definition of success. So are you doing what you're doing that makes you happy? Then I'm happy and you're successful. And if you're doing what you want to be doing, at least 95% of your life, you're doing what you want to be doing.
Yeah, that's the key. I mean, when you think and you're driven the same way I am, staying busy is what makes you happy. You know what I mean? If I'm busy, if I'm doing 5 things at once, that's my happy place, man. That's where I like being. You know what I mean? And people, when you're going to relax, when you're going to take, I don't want to do, why would I want to do that? This is relaxing for me. This is what I enjoy. You know what I mean? So I don't need to relax.
Yeah. That's interesting you say that. I think it's coming through here. That's okay. So I think it's interesting you say that because that seems to be, to me, an observable common denominator amongst high performers. It doesn't matter what they're doing. Mm-hmm. I mean, I know people who have a job and that's it. They don't have a side business. They're, employee, but they're high performers. They just get it done. I've met these people they just outshine everybody and almost everybody because they're not that typically on average, people aren't those high performers. They're always getting offended by these people.
You hear it all the time. You're going to have to lose your old friends. And, and even myself, I've hung on to so many of them. And, and I like to think that I don't have to lose everybody. But unfortunately, man, a lot of them, they just separate themselves, and you'll hear things like, oh, Curtis has changed. Curtis thinks he's better or this or that. And it's like, but I have changed because I want more. I want to go see what can I accomplish? I want to see what this life has for me. So I've changed in that way. I don't think my personality has changed a great deal, but my goals have definitely changed. And you end up separating yourself from the old crowd. But the good thing is you find new people that are like-minded, that think the same way as you do, and you end up having great relationships with them. Yeah. You know what I mean? But you end up losing everybody, even my wife. And it sucks for her. But just her, us getting married and we living this good life and this nice house and all this shit, all of her family had really disengaged themselves from her. And I've had to have this talk with her, like, hey, this is part of the journey. You're going to meet new people. They might not be your family, but they're going to be close to you like your family and so forth. And she's going through that process right now. And I hate seeing it on her because she's very sensitive. Mm-hmm. But it's part of the journey, man. I mean, you're going to lose old friends. When you want to be successful, you want to be an entrepreneur, you want to be a winner, there's going to be sacrifices along the way. Yeah, it's just part of the fucking deal.
That's very interesting you say that. So if we can, let's, I think we should wrap this. You've hit so many points of the things that we wanted to go over, everything actually that we wanted to go over. So I think this episode just, like, you rock and rolled better than I've seen you do so far, which is cool because this is episode 3. Eventually there'll be episode 4 and so on, maybe further on, but it's cool to see the progress. We talked about this at the beginning of before we even started this episode, but I have seen the progress from the day that me and you first met and you started talking about wanting to do things like this. And even the first video that you recorded in my shop to now. And just
you inspired me to shoot my first video.
Yeah, exactly. So like those little bits, it just adds up. Can you say something about that? And just in general, it doesn't have to be to podcasting or recording, but just to something to people to not just inspire them, but to like maybe encourage them in some way what that's all about.
Well, I could tell you something that I struggled with, and you actually helped me with this a lot, is another form of procrastination is trying to make everything perfect. It's like, okay, I'm going to do this, but I need to get this first and get this, and then I can do that. And it's just another form of procrastination. And you told me, you go, just turn the fucking camera on and record. I'm like, right now? He goes, we're talking. Just turn the fucking camera on and let's go. And I remember we shot the first one while I'm sitting there getting tattooed. And I'm like, I went back and listened to it. I'm like, okay, that's interesting. I wonder if people would listen to it. I put it out there. You get a lot of good responses. And, you know, this success encourages you to keep going. You know, you get a lot of negative shit too, but you can get 10 negative comments because there's always fucking haters. And then you get one positive comment that comes back really strong. And they tell you something like, Curtis, your last video really hit home. That helped me a lot. Thank you for posting this content. Keep it up, man. Me and my team listen to this daily. And you're like, you know what? That just made up for the 50 fucking negative comments I just had to read through.
Right.
You know what I mean? That one right there, boom. I'm like, that's the one right there. So, but to get back to what you're saying there, you know, don't try to be perfect. Just fucking do it.
Right.
Just do it. You know, I don't care what it is. You know what I mean? Trying to make sure it's perfect. I got my business license going on Venue 65 now. I'm probably still 8 months away from even opening the fucking doors, but I'm taking advantage of the tax benefits. You know, it's going to take a while to finish it, but I learned that, you know what? I like this idea. We're going to do it. Okay, go.
It's very cool.
So just go.
So jumping to a different subject, but kind of on point to a degree, is your official Curtis Riggleman, because you mentioned that earlier as one of your last businesses that you started. Mm-hmm. Can you talk to us a little bit about that, what people can expect from it, and where you're going with it?
In a nutshell, it's a coaching platform. That's what I'm doing. You know, it's an online coaching platform. Obviously, you can find me on YouTube, official Curtis Riggleman. You can find me on Instagram, official Curtis Riggleman. On TikTok, it's just at Curtis Riggleman. There is a fake account on TikTok where you put an S behind my last name, Rigglemans. That's not my account. So motherfuckers, they got all my shit, word for word, right? But official Curtis Riggleman and at Curtis Riggleman TikTok. It's a coaching platform, and I haven't made a dime off it. I don't care if I do. I'm simply putting this content out there for people that can use it, and if it helps somebody get to the next step. YouTube, I got all my my long form content out there. There's a lot of good training out there. I do a training 2 to 3 times a month with my entire crew. We film that entire thing now. I post that out there along with a lot of other small stuff on there. But it's just a lot of good tools for anybody that's in any type of sales. I go through a lot of the psychology with you. I go through a lot of things that have worked for me over the last 24 years at a high performing level. Every position I've been in, I've been one of the best at it, if not the best at it. So when I'm giving this information out there for free, none of these are hypothetical scenarios. None of these are like, hey, if you go try this, I'm pretty sure this. No, everything I put out there is tested and proven many, many times over. I wouldn't give it away if I didn't think it would work, if I knew it wouldn't work, because I've done it 100 times. So everything I'm putting out there is just to inspire and help somebody. That's it. That's the reward I get. When I get one positive comment back, that makes up for the fucking 50 clowns that I had to lead through. The only good thing about the negative comments is I did a couple episodes on just talking about the negative comments that the people put out there.
Yeah.
And that's kind of funny. You know what I mean? It's funny.
It's entertaining.
Yeah, it's entertaining. You know, I think everybody got kicked out of it. I did. I like shooting it. So
that's cool.
I got enough shit out there right now. I could probably shoot another one.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. And I dig it, man, because like I said, you know, we're somewhere in the sense that it's about progress and like seeing where we can go, and, you know, just being not just hungry and driven. It's because that's not really a choice. I don't think you even make that choice to be driven. You don't have to wake up and go, you know, say a mantra or something to be driven. It's just who you are. But what's really neat is that you not only follow through with it, but that you're the kind of person, because you've even done this with me, where you just, when you see that somebody else is genuine and they need the help and they ask, you're right there to help people. I've seen it many a times. That is an incredibly rare thing. So that's something that I should point out from, you know, just my perspective, for what it's worth. That's a really uncommon thing. So with you doing this Curtis Riggleman, it's going to be really fun to see where it goes. I think my favorite part is actually one day to hear somebody say, man, that guy's done this, and what, like, it's going to happen one day. I'm going to hear somebody say something about it or bring it up. Right now we're just sitting in your studio recording episode 3, but either way, there's lives to be changed. And really, I think in a sense, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but really what we're doing in a way is reaching out, almost like a call out to all the people out there who are similar to us, that are going to learn from us. What's the whole point of learning all this if everybody else has to make the same mistakes to learn the same things? We should be getting better, and the future of, you know, whoever's interested in you know, living this sort of lifestyle, it just makes it easier for them to try and live this lifestyle as well, which is really cool. So seeing that impact that you're making and that you're, you know, set out to do in the world is pretty cool. I'm sure there's endless stuff we could talk about. I think this episode's already in a really good spot. Is there any last words you want to say closing up?
No,
episode?
I mean, go to my platforms. If you guys need help with something specific, you'd always DM me on my Instagram. I'm helping a lot of people now. If I have the time to do it, I'll give you the time. I'll show you a technique or whatever it is. I'm gonna help you get through it. But otherwise, I just want people to take away from this episode that wherever you're at in life, especially if you go back and watch episode 1, you kind of learn a little bit where it came from. This is available to everybody. I mean, and I'm not nowhere near done. I'm in my journey just like everybody else. I can't wait to tell you about episode 4. That's gonna be a few years from now. But I'm still on this journey like everyone else. But I'm just trying to help and inspire people that either A, don't know the next step, or B, may not think that it's available to them. The only fucking thing you need is a burning desire to win and the work ethic to do what others are not willing to do. And if you're okay with those two things, you're a fucking unicorn right now, because most people won't do the things that are required and they don't care about winning. So if you got that winning mentality and you're not afraid to do what others are not willing to do, you are a fucking unicorn right now. Every employer wants you, and you just got to go after it. You got to go after it. Your background makes no difference, because mine is as worse as it gets.
Cool. Very cool. Well, Curtis, episode 3, that was rad.
All right.
So I appreciate you having me on, and everybody watching, of course. So whatever you got out of this, if you're watching this on YouTube or wherever, whether it's current or later on in the comment section, I think we could probably encourage them just to be active with us. Find you on Instagram. Interact with us here on YouTube,
and get your ass in the gym. Get in the gym.
Awesome. All
right.
Cool. See you guys.